Hi, Donna Guest here, the Lazy Scrapbooker and Creative Memories Advisor. Welcome to this month's edition of the Savvy Scrapbookers. This month we take on Denim Revival. This is where Debbie Martin, Nicole and I divide up one pack of paper, and this time one pack of embellishments, and we each create a 2-page layout to give you 6 pages. Let's get started. Here are the materials from Denim Revival that we'll use for my pages. First, 2 matching sheets of this dark blue. You can identify it because it has this pattern on the back. We're going to use these as our base pages. Then 1 sheet of this tan, and you can identify it because it has this patchwork on the back. And finally, this piece of light paper, but we're going to use this side right here of this blue. Then I've got several of the embellishments as well. You can kind of use these exactly, or you can kind of suit it to fit your needs. Here are the tools we're going to use. We're going to need the 12-inch trimmer, of course, and I'm going to use both the straight blade and the new pinking blade. Now, if you don't have it, you can certainly create this without it, but it does make it a little bit more fun. Then I'm going to use a tape runner, and I always prefer using the Repositionable, which is the green case, so that I can move things around if I need to. But again, if you don't have a Repositionable, this will work with a regular tape runner, but I highly recommend that Repositionable. These pages are super easy, and the first thing we're going to do is take this blue paper, which has the lighter pattern on the back, and we're going to cut that in half at 6 inches. So we're going to have 2 6x12 pieces. And that's it with that paper. Doesn't get much easier than that. All right, on to the next piece of paper. Okay, so this one was a little bit more complicated. We're going to switch to the pinking shears. Now, when you're using a blade that has a pattern on it that's a little bit different, you're going to want to always remember have the logo facing the logo on the trimmer. So our trimmer logo is right up here in the top left-hand corner. When we put this in, we're going to have this logo facing it, just like that. Okay, and that's going to give us the desired look. Now, I'm going to trim off. I'm going to line it up at the 1/8 of an inch, which is just this one little dotted line to the right from our cutting line. And look at this. Do you ever see your mat look like this? That looks pretty bad. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to change it out. And let's flip that around. Whoops. I was at 2 and it's looking really worn. I'm going to switch that over to 3. And it's going to be like I have a brand new trimmer. Can't wait. Now I'm going to push this over 1/8 inch, which is to that line to the right of our cutting line, and I'm going to trim it off with my pinking shears. Okay, so I have pinking shears. You hear what I said right there? It's a pinking blade, not the shears. I'm going really old school, thinking about the scissors. I remember my mom had some with her sewing kit back in the 70s. So, okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this paper around to cut the next part. And by doing that, I can either turn my paper around or I can turn the blade around so that it's a mirror image on both sides, or it won't look quite right. And we're going to cut this at 4.5 inches. Wonderful. Now we're going to do it again over here. So I'm going to start at this edge right here. Now I could start right here, but honestly, it's a little bit different. It's a slightly different look. If you can see that right there, it's almost the same. It's slightly different. I guess I could use that. It's still got the little points. It's good. Some, like the new Colonial blade, it looks completely different on the opposite side. So I'm going to use this, okay? But I am going to turn my blade around now. And we're going to cut that off at 4.5 inches. It really wouldn't have mattered too much on this one, but it has the same look on both sides now. Not a big deal. Okay, so I've got 2 strips that are 4.5 inches wide, and they're cut with a pinking blade on both sides. Now save this, we're going to use it. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut some more of these strips 4.5 inches wide with the pinking blade, because we want them to be a match to this, so it can extend out more than 12 inches. Because these are tilted, they're going to be more than 12 inches long. So let's put our pinking blade in the regular way, and I'm going to just cut off this little edge here. Then we're going to turn it around and do 4.5 inches again. Okay, and now it's a perfect match for this one. And we'll do the same thing. Cut it at 4.5 inches again. Actually, I can just turn my blade around since my paper's in the same place. I'm overthinking this blade turning around thing, and I'll show you why. When it's a pattern that's really, really different, like the stamping, okay? I know this has nothing to do with my pages I'm doing right now, but I feel the need to show this. So let me get this piece of paper right here that's a scrap. So if my logo is facing this logo right here, all right, I have a completely different look. Check it out. All right, so if I turned this paper, if I was gonna cut this edge over here and I didn't turn my paper around and I didn't turn the blade around, watch what happens. I do not get that mirror image anymore. Can you see that okay? I don't. I get the stamping look here, and then I get these waves down here. So with some blades, it really does matter, but I will say I'm overthinking it with the pinking blade because it's kind of the same on both sides. All right, I'll keep going now. This is a scrap, so I'll put it aside. And let me definitely get the stamping blade out because that's not part of this design. We're not using it. You could. It would look cool. And I should be done with the pinking blade now. I'm going to put my straight blade back in. Okay, now we're going to start assembling this. So our 6-inch pieces are going to go on the inside of our 2 pages. So I'm going to go ahead and attach those with my repositionable just to make sure I don't need to pull it up and redo it again. If I do that with the regular tape runner, I've created quite a mess sometimes. All right, looks good. We'll do this other one. All right, so that was the really super easy page right there. Okay, now the idea for these, as you saw at the beginning, is they're going to go slanted like this. And that's why we had to have these extra pieces, because we're going to have to piece these together. Because they are slanted, they need to be more than 12 inches long. So I'm going to kind of look and just see where the paper matches best. I think if I turn it around this way, that looks really good because there were some dark spots down here. And let me see, I think this was a good match down here. You're going to be covering it up with photos, so it's not going to matter a whole lot, but you want the colors to be about right. I think that looks good. So the angle is completely up to you. That's however you want to do it. I'm leaving myself enough room for, I'm going to have 8 pictures on here. So a landscape photo here and here, a portrait photo here, and then portrait photos down here. And depending on the height of them, you could get a few in there actually if you cut your photos down a little bit. So I think I'm ready to start putting this down. And again, repositionable is very helpful. But one thing about repositionable, once you put it down on this dark paper, if you pull it up, it's going to pull some color up with it. So you kind of have to put it back down in the same place. And I'm going to make sure that I line this up so the pinking matches. And hopefully there is room for human error here, of course, if I didn't cut it the exact perfect width, but this looks pretty good. Let's do it again over here. I just like this pinking blade with this denim paper because it is pretty retro. It reminds me of the 70s. So now to trim this off, oh my gosh, this is my favorite part. You're going to line up the paper upside down at your cutting blade. And right now my cutting line is number 3. It's always the left dotted line there. And then I'm going to trim that off. You could do this with scissors. Wow, it does feel like I have a new trimmer, I'll tell you that. You could do that with scissors, but it's a pretty big piece and it's going to look much neater done with your trimmer. And oh my gosh, it's so satisfying to trim this off. Wow, perfect. Okay, and now see what we have on the other side. Look how cool that looks. Love it. And when you get a photo over that, you're not going to see that seam or color pattern change. Not really a pattern change, but this paper is good to do that with because it's just pretty much a basic pattern. Very tonal. Obviously a solid paper will be super easy to do this with. So again, we're just flipping these pages upside down, lining it up on our cutting line and trimming that excess off. Oh, so much better already. Very cool. What a simple design. This is going to look so cool with our photos. So now we're ready for the photos. I'm just going to kind of work with these and place them and see what I might like to put where. I actually did put some thought into this already, which is not like me. You could have some going off the page if you wanted to. I thought about it, but these photos don't really lend themselves to cropping into like 4x4s. If they were small photos, I could do that and I could have like 1, 2, and 3. So your layout may even get more photos in here. You could have 3 photos in here very easily if they are smaller. But I'm using my full photos and my pictures are the digital size. So they've already been cropped a little bit to trim off that one little edge because they're not quite 4x6. Notice these are not quite 4x6, so on a 6x12 here, I still have a margin. So you may have a 4x6 photo that fills that space, or you may want to crop a little bit off, but this works perfectly for most of us who have those digital photos. All right, so I can't decide if I want to let that go off the page. I may do that. I may do that because I'm going to put some embellishments down here. Let's try it. And you only want to do that if it's a photo you don't care about cropping a little bit out, and I don't care about cropping that ceiling out, but I'm just going to let one little corner hang off there. And then lining these up, this is a very symmetrical page. Yours does not have to be. You can have your photos here in the middle in this light blue, in whatever position you want to. I had mostly portraits from this event, so I'm just doing the two landscape photos up here where they have a little more room, and there's less room down here because of the angle of this. And again, this is kind of a canvas to do what you want with, but these diagonal stripes or strips pretty much dictate what you've got to do here. I'm gonna let that hang off a little bit too, kind of like the look of it. All right, so I'm gonna use that trimmer again and just trim my photo. Now, I will tell you, this is not a trimmer for photos. It will trim the photos, but paper that your photos are on will wear this mat and blade down more quickly than paper will. So for photos, you're gonna want to use your photo trimmer or personal trimmer. And so I'm not going to worry about that too much here because I'm just trimming this little teeny piece off, and this trimmer is not going to do this for me. I've got to use this where I can line it up. But I felt the need to make sure you knew this is really not an all-in-one trimmer. You want to have a separate trimmer for your photos. I do like how that looks. That's pretty cool. And that was super fast. Okay, let me add the embellishments. So sometimes I get ahead of myself. I'm way too fast. And so I should have swapped this picture and this picture, and now I've already cut that one. So you know what I'm going to do? Because I wanted to put this at the bottom of his picture right below it and not down here. It says so lovable, and so I wanted to put that on my son. So this is a two-piece embellishment. You've got this little frame here, and this fits right in. And there's several other little words I know that Debbie and Nicole divided up with me. So I'm gonna swap these. So here's what I'm gonna do. Multi-tool to the rescue. This is why I use repositionable tape, because I always make mistakes. I go too fast. So I'm just going to trim just a tad off of this. That's it. It was like 1/4 of an inch, so I can live with that. It still looks great. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip-flop these. Don't you love that I show you all the mistakes I make? I don't know if you do, but it definitely shows you sometimes how to fix these if you get into a jam and, you know, do like me and go a little too fast. All right, there we go. So that one goes there. And this one's going to go down here, and I'll put this cute little caption underneath it. And I could use foam squares on that. That would look cute, but I'm good. These are actually going to be pages for my husband's 3rd album. If you watched my series about the Lazy Scrapbooker Under Pressure with his retirement albums, this will be the actual 3rd album, the retirement album. So, hey, I'm going to have 2 pages done. Yay! All right, I'm happy with that. Glad I made the change. Okay, then I've got this embellishment cluster. I try to stick with 3 little spots. I may have 4. We'll see. So I'm going to put these 3 together. I split up the hearts to where the darker ones over here and the lighter one here, just so they'd be a little bit of a contrast. So I've got 2 hearts and then a word. We have happy and we have love over here. So let me just cluster those. Do we want a foam square? Let's do it. You know, I don't use these nearly enough. And we'll put that right here on the hearts. Love it. And maybe I'll do the same thing right here. Okay, so 2 little clusters there. We have a title here. And I was thinking about putting this is another 2-piece embellishment. This dark denim, and it says hello. I'm just going to put that here so it kind of blends in there. And now it looks like it was meant to be like this. Kind of wanted to put it up here, but I need to move these down. Again, multi-tool to the rescue. Sometimes I get too fast and I don't think it through with my embellishments, but we can fix that. So these are not going to be mirror images of each other, so I'm okay with that. I'll move this down just a bit, keeping it centered, and now I've got room for this up here. Do I like that? I hope I do, since I've moved this. Okay, one last thing to do. We're going to trim off this photo yet again to fix my error. Love doing that. I swear I didn't make that mistake on purpose, but I do love trimming that edge off. Okay, I think I'm done. I love these pages. I hope you enjoy making this layout. Just be sure you have your photos in the right place before you trim them. Be sure to like or subscribe so you'll see all future videos to complete fast pages. Next, check out Debbie and Nicole's videos. You'll find the links to their videos in the description to this video. Thanks for watching.